So, a Trump election victory, as predicted, has given us the Christmas gift of the left eating itself. Can you believe the solution for the left after losing against a fascist like Trump in such a spectacular fashion is to go further left? You see, the problem is, the left just wants to help you, and you don't know it because of right-wing propaganda. Let's watch my new favorite progressives, Gavin.
Right? You don't want to sound condescending. You don't want to sound like you're lecturing normal people from your coastal castle, telling them how to properly speak or think, right? So what is the best way to reach a lot of these voters?
And Zac.
After we watched the single largest protest movement in American history come out and say defund the police, yeah, I think that's where the American people are at, Anna. I don't think it's a controversial take.
On their Vladimir Lenin entitled show, The Vanguard, interviewed the current mayor of Enfield, North Carolina, as to why he's leaving the largest progressive news outlet, The Young Turks, hosted by Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian. I want you to notice how these two edgy white dudes come off as being like relatable, but strictly talk like political talking heads. The amount of prefacing and loading before actually saying anything is so boring. So I'm just gonna show you just a clip of this dude Gavin being as milquetoast as humanly possible and really extra prefacing what he's about to say before he says it.
Super excited. All I have to add is that I'm, genuinely excited for this conversation. We haven't ever spoken with Mayor Robinson on the platform, so I'm super excited to hear not only his insights, obviously, into this TYT situation, but also his gig as mayor of Enfield. That's a very interesting subject. I'm excited to hopefully get his, thoughts and perspective on, as well as just his opinion on the state of America today as we face down a second Donald Trump administration. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of great insights for us, Zac. But yeah, let's welcome the man to the van.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show today, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about, but I figured a great place would be if you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Mondale Robinson, and I'm a mayor, but I'm a different type of politician. So let's couch that. I'm progressive first.
Oh, well, would you look at that with your good eye? When he's talking to a couple of wholesome, progressive white boys, he's a progressive first. But how does it sound when he's talking to a few brothers, a few black guys? Is he still a progressive first, or is he black first when he's talking to them?
I'm a black person first. They can keep that money for them videos.
You ever notice how progressives, even though they're not campaigning and they're just regular citizens, seem to constantly speak like politicians, and they talk to these different groups different ways? They're constantly politics minded. It's just rhetoric. They don't have any underlying values or principles. They will say whatever they have to say to whoever they have to say it to push the narrative forward. What is that narrative exactly? Stick around for a little bit and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But let's see when Mayor Mondale had enough of these Confederate statues in North Carolina and tore them down himself, and let's see what repercussions he suffered for doing such a brave and stunning action.
And instead of spending $30,000, $40,000 on that statue, I had to figure out a way to get rid of it. So I tore it down myself. And when I tore it down, I did not account for how whiteness was, and the ode to that the white people needed to stand up and take back their town and their history and their heritage.
Yeah, dude, I kind of know what you're saying. Sometimes I'm in the wrong neighborhood and I forget how blackness is. How whiteness is. We all know that the only people that are allowed to have a positive sense of history in the country are black people. White people can't have any sort of semblance of any sort of history. It has to be eroded, wiped clean, and replaced with progressive values. Now you might be asking yourself, well, what is white history? American history. What is black history? American history. I'm just operating within their terms, okay? But let's see how this poor, cucked out commie white boy is going to respond to hearing how this black man is being oppressed by these white supremacists, a black mayor, a man in power, and how oppressed he is. Let's see the performance he's going to put on.
And do something to me. So I started receiving death threats, got doxxed, and still to this day, more than 2.5 years, I've not stepped in my bed because of those death threats, because they're still a constant right now in my life.
That's I mean, that's fucking crazy to hear about. Obviously, so sorry to hear about that in that experience that you're having, to this day.
There really is no way. There's no other way you can say it. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Racists are trying to constantly murder you as the mayor. What, to the point where he can't sleep? He hasn't slept in his own bed in 2.5 years? Is that what he said?
I don't know if y'all heard me. I've 2.5 years, I've not slept in my fucking bed, right? For turning on a Confederate monument. I'm already 45 years old, right? I have a therapist. So I'm dealing with the epigenetics of being black in America and what it means.
Okay, Blackie Robinson. When he's talking about the epigenetics of being black in America, he's talking about generational trauma where it's in his bones, the racism that's happened in the country. That's what he means by that. But I'm pretty sure those people still slept in their own bed. I'm pretty sure your ancestors slept in their own bed. So what are you talking about? Since people, are you on the lam? Are you in a remote location, but you're still the mayor of Enfield, North Carolina? Like, what does that mean you haven't slept in your own bed? Why?
We spend a lot of time pretending that things got better and now they're getting worse again. We have to first acknowledge that nothing ever changed in this country, right? If you look at the time when lynching was the way that you put black men in their place in this country from the 1800s to the mid 60s, we've lost more black men probably in the last decade from cops killing, and we're not talking about lynching as if it's not a real thing.
Now it's time for me to pull out the white man's greatest weapon he ever invented: crime statistics. In 2023, in just Charlotte, North Carolina, there were 95 homicides, and in 2022 there was 107 homicides. In 2022, North Carolina had the 12th highest gun homicide rate in the country. Let's stack those numbers against police shootings. Brought to us by our famously right-wing source, The Washington Post. So police have shot and killed over 10,000 people since 2015. So in like a 9-year period. Let's see the total number of people police have killed in North Carolina in 9 years. So in Charlotte, in 2022 and 2023, there was 200 homicides just in Charlotte. In all of North Carolina in 9 years, there's been 300 police shooting murders. In the year 2023, when there was 95 homicides in Charlotte, North Carolina, there was 41 police shooting killings in the entire state of North Carolina. Now let's select for race. Out of the 41 people, how many were black? Let's pause for a moment. Out of 41, how many were black in 2023? Now, this may come as a shock to you, but the answer is 41. That's right. 41 out of 41 people shot and killed by the police in North Carolina were black. I'm just kidding. It's only 10. In all of North Carolina in 2023. And then you're thinking to yourself, yeah, but how many were armed? All 10 of them must have been unarmed. Well, actually, 7 of those 10 black people shot and killed by the police were armed. And we all know those other 3 were just playing double dutch outside of a church. But let's hear how this communist podcast asks a question. Let's see if this question is loaded at all with the answer that they want to hear.
But I did just want to offer you the opportunity to kind of share with our audience, at least, and hopefully to the Young Turks as well, if they ever see this. What should the approach be?
What should the approach be?
As we look down the barrel of Trump 2.0, as we look down the barrel of this fascist threat which approaches, what is the correct posture? What is the correct response? How do you embody an effective left-wing resistance? Because it's one thing to resist. You can, flail around and cry and scream, but we need an effective resistance this time. I think that's what is important that we talk about.
That's a communist asking a question. Oh, you couldn't possibly guess what he wants the answer to be, right? You see, these people don't believe in truth. They just believe in positioning reality a certain way. So, like, for example, since they feel like, through alchemy, they can just change the name of something and then therefore change what it is, like trans kids, for example, they think that other people think the same way that they do. So they think the issue with Obamacare is that it's attached to Obama. And so if we didn't call it Obamacare, they would like what it is.
If you look at progressive policies, and this is what they're saying, we are a fringe group of people. But if you take the name off of Obamacare, Americans love it.
Okay, you guys ready for a mainstream media news right-wing framing of Obamacare and why it may be bad for people?
This was the precise moment I no longer was a Democrat.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. Okay.
That was the precise moment that I knew I was leaving the Democratic Party. Because I was a 2-time bone cancer survivor. I voted for Obama-Biden based on Obamacare. And when it was implemented in 2010, I ended up losing my insurance. I went from an insurance plan that was $185 a month with a $1,000 deductible to that policy being canceled because it no longer met the requirements of Obamacare. And I was left with the cheapest option being $1,200 a month, $6,000 deductible. $185 a month, $1,000 deductible to $1,200 a month, $6,000 deductible. I went 10 years without insurance. And I was penalized each year because I could no longer afford insurance. And in 2016, every single Democrat candidate up on that debate stage raised their hand and said they would give illegals free health care. While me, as a 2-time bone cancer survivor, lost mine. Didn't have insurance for 10 years, and I was supposed to get CT scans, chest x-rays, and all these other tests done every 6 months to ensure my cancer didn't come back. And they wanted to give illegals free health care. That was the exact moment I was no longer a Democrat.
Oh my god, what a partisan hack. Did you hear the right-wing framing on that guy? What he said went against the left. Unbelievable. He must be a grifter.
If you take the name off of universal health care, Americans love it. If you take the name off of universal basic income, Americans think it's a godlike thing. But this idea that we play to Republican talking points and we say things like you call us fringe, or you do the both sidism, where black people and white people on the left are the fringe, and it's equivalent to the right fringe, when we know damn well we are not equal to folk that support Trump.
Well, you're half right. In terms of rights, you have equal rights, but in terms of being a political thinker, a race-baiting mayor, no, you're not equal at all whatsoever. You're actually a net negative. You're actually a detriment. And as you may have heard, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. He doesn't like being called a religious zealot. He's a zealot for equity.
So this idea that I'm a grip, or it don't really matter, or I'm kind of a religious zealot, I am a zealot about fucking equity.
He's not a filthy communist at all. He's just a zealot for equity. You see, equality is giving everyone the same resources. However, everyone starts off at different points. Equity is about giving everyone what they need, each according to their need. But in case you haven't seen every progressive-run city that's ever existed in human history, equity really involves sawing off the legs of black people. Have a good one.